Throughout human history, there are some truly bad ideas that don't seem to die off. Popularized in the 1980s, the idea of work life balance has been a constant source of misery, one idea that will not tap out. In fact, this notion keeps coming back with new standards of misery, making us all feel bad about our work life balance. The original discussion around work life was based around demographics. The idea was to bring women, especially mothers in the 1970s, back into work. Traditionally, work and life were seen as two separate worlds. But many observers and researchers believed that this needed a reassessment. So, researchers began asking men and women about their work life balance and what are they doing about it.
Momentum gathered in 1977 with the publication of Rosabeth Moskanter's Work and Family in the United States. A sociologist and business professor at Harvard, she attacked what she called the myth of separate worlds prevalent at the time in the construction of work and family life. Some of the largest US corporations and much of the mainstream media caught up with Cantor in the decade that followed. The oil major EXXON founded a national organization for the advancement of professional women, and IBM funded a child care service called Work Family Directions. As is often the case, problems started to arise when a nuanced discussion, in this case about the realities and interactions between changing work and home lives, was boiled down to a three-word slogan: work-life balance. Work-life balance found one of its earliest and loudest champions in the magazine Working Mother, which was set up in 1979. Its annual Working Mother Top 100 became a competitive scramble among the Fortune 500 companies after the second run of the list made front-page news in the Wall Street Journal.
Meanwhile, the idea of balance has been seen in multiple ways. In the worst case scenario, it has been literally seen as a balance, trying to make equal amount of work and life possible for most people. It ended up becoming a situation where companies were given to believe that they have to control the lives of their employees even outside work. And finally, work life balance was seen as a need for women to have it all, to have a professional life and a home life. What in fact we have created is an inferiority complex. Regardless of how much money you make, what is your job title, where do you work, how many children do you have, and what is the state of affairs at your home, you still keep looking for that balance. And as I said earlier, companies ended up trying to control the lives of their employees even outside work, which gave them an incentive to talk about it, which gave them an incentive to be disingenuous about it. And they did. If they could self work life balance to gain a competitive advantage, of course they were going to do it. While talking about all these positives, all this balance of achieving between work and life, you will assume that we have gained some positives. In fact, things have gotten worse.
The disingenuous conversation has helped reverse historical trends towards shorter working weeks. In 1965, the average American man spent somewhere between 42 and 51 hours at work. By 2003, the equivalent number was down to 36 to 42, but the smallest net gains in leisure time were concentrated among the most educated and highest earning 10%.
If you think about it, a balance is a lifelong aspiration. If you achieve that balance, if you have a nice job, a nice house, a nice partner, kids, and everything is going well, you have achieved everything in life. You will scream, stop, and you will not want anything to change. That rarely happens. The situation we have now is people think work life balance means the least amount of work and the most amount of enjoyment. And this feeling comes into work as well. Work through the week and enjoy your weekend. We are now reaching a point where there are discussions of extending the weekend. We can only imagine what will happen with that. What we need to understand is that work is not away from life. You can have your family, you can have your own personal life, but work can be a part of that as well, adding a layer to it. All these aspects of life have their wonderful times and their bad times. Same is true for work. You will enjoy, hopefully, most of what you do. You still need to do a few things that you need for the organization, which need to be done. So you can have the positives and the negatives of working. Yes, we can improve our work. Yes, we can improve our personal lives as well. Why do these two need to be separate from each other? They could be complementing each other.
I want to make a point that this work-life balance is a feeling. And when you're at work, be present, and same likewise when you're with your family. And what this means is if you're having a meeting with your team members, how often do you take a phone call in between? And likewise, if you're having dinner or breakfast with your partner or your wife, then again, how often do you get interrupted by text messages? When we look at work-life balance, I believe it's a perspective. It depends on who's in your peer circle, So when we look at how many hours of work that you do, if you're around individuals that do less, again, you'll feel that potentially feel like there's imbalance, and likewise with the if you're around people that do more hours. When I was in the police force, I found that it was quite often police officers would go through 2 or 3 marriages. The ones that were more successful in marriage were the ones when they were married to another police officer or someone from the emergency service, because there was a level of understanding. So effectively, if you're around individuals that don't have or come from a similar background, including work ethics, there will be imbalance. Sometimes people get uncomfortable when I tell them I work on a Saturday or a Sunday. In fact, this script was actually produced on a Sunday, and it was spent in the office with my wife. Luckily for me, my wife has very similar career aspirations. So whilst we're working, we can spend time together as well. So for me, I had a really amazing Sunday, and that's because we got into the office for around about 10 o'clock. Bear in mind, we had breakfast together and solid few hours independently on our work, and then we had lunch together. And around about 3 o'clock, we took a trip into the city centre, a couple of minutes walk, where we treated ourselves to a dessert and coffee. I don't know about you, but I found this super fun and balanced. It's important to be able to self-check your own mental health and take a break whenever it's needed. To me, this means if it's a bank holiday, it doesn't mean that I'm automatically going to be taking a break. If I need one, I'll take it. If not, I'll carry on with work because that's what I enjoy doing. For me and my wife, we both love our careers and what we do, and I think this is really important to a work-life balance. It's doing something that you generally enjoy and you can see yourself making a difference. Around about 6 months ago, me and my wife took a break or a trip to Bristol. 2 or 3 days were spent traveling and exploring, and there were a couple of hours that we dedicated ourselves to being on the computer and working because we wanted to. And on one of the days, we actually spent in a co-working space where, again, we were working on our projects. It's sometimes said that if you're on a break, take a complete break. But for me, it just means what I'm content with and what I want to do.
It seems more useful then to not try to balance the unbalanceable, but do what you love the most. These misconceptions around work life balance are outright dangerous because they create false expectation. While you can set goals for yourself, for example, even in the case of work life balance, don't set goals which are not achievable, which are too hard to achieve, to be fair. I'm not saying set goals which are too easy, but you need to find that balance. However, if we understand that this work life balance isn't truly achievable, we will stop making rationalizations to make ourselves feel worse. The problem doesn't just stop there. What is happening with work life these days? It has rebranded itself into flexibility.
Bob Drago, author of Striking a Balance, Work, Family, Life, puts it rather well. The field literally disappears in the term flexibility. I mean, it just took over because corporations were wondering, what can we do that doesn't cost us money? And flexibility was the answer.
What we need to understand is that this dialogue around work life balance and flexibility and everything else will keep transforming. If companies think they can utilize something to show that they care rather than actually caring, for example, creating a nurturing environment that helps you improve personally and professionally, they will keep doing it. We can truly make work a part of our life rather than looking for that balance, which may or may not bring joy to our lives. Don't just buy into these ideas, question them, question the constructs that you have built around yourself, and even go and question those constructs. But let's start small.
Hey, I'm Hamid Singh.
And I'm Taseer Ahmad. Thanks for watching our video. Hopefully you enjoyed our opinions on work-life balance. Hopefully you find your own balance. Do connect with us on LinkedIn, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Cheers.